The
I
record.
move for approval.
We're good.
Second, nobody second? Okay,
Well, wait a
Martha
minute.
second,
Wait a minute. I have,
and everyone, yes, approve.
no, I have some corrections. Can you hear me?
Chuck, you don't have any,
Audible? Hold on. Let's go.
Chuck, I can
your
hear
audio
you
is not
fine.
working, Chuck.
I can hear him.
I can hear him.
I do have a couple of suggestions on the minutes. Can you hear me, Leonardo? Leonardo, can you hear me?
Apparently not. Leonardo, can you hear me?
Chuck,
Leonardo, can you hear me?
he's trying to say something, but I don't know.
Can you hear me, Leonardo?
Let's see. This is tricky. I'll put it in chat.
No. It's me?
Yeah,
Shit. Yeah. It's me. All right. How about that?
so can you hear me now?
Yep.
Good. I have a couple of thoughts on the corrections for the October minutes, and maybe others do as well. Leonardo, thanks for pulling the meeting back together today. This was a little dicey, and I should have responded sooner and did not. So thank you. And Lauren, thanks for sending out the map and the minutes. They were great. So looking at the October minutes on page 1, line 34, please add the word senior before HCR, excuse me, between senior people, add the word HCR rather than risk the sense that it's a bunch of seniors, okay?
So you want me to replace senior with HCR?
No, between senior and people.
So
add.
senior HCR people.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you. And on the next line, would you replace that line with hearing of their interest in Dryden?
So meeting in person with senior HCR people in the program was hearing of their interest in Dryden time and again of their, just hearing of their interest in Dryden, period?
Period, yeah.
So removing time and again of their flexibility and accommodation.
Right.
Okay.
Page 2, number 9. Insert the word potentially before large.
Okay.
Lines 28 and 29. They're kind of confusing insofar as, and I'd like input from others on this. We're referring to the Tompkins County Trust Fund in two different ways here that I don't think are appropriate. Here, we're talking about supplementing or standing in for the 10K that we probably can't get from the county in the short run because it's no longer available. And so we raise the possibility of going to the trust fund, and later, which I'll get to in a minute, we talk about it as possibly providing funds for repairs and actual handiwork in the mobile home context.
Chuck, I'm sorry, what page are you on? I was reading ahead and I lost
Okay.
you.
So let's go back to page 2, lines 28 and 29.
29, okay.
And is it possible to put the minutes up on the screen? Someone trying to do that?
I've got them on if, Gina, if you can't.
No,
Thank you. So page 2, go to lines 28 and 29.
page 2.
Scroll down, please. Okay, 28 and 29. So here we're talking about a supplemental grant from the housing. We still on page 2? Okay, hold it. Supplemental grant from the Housing Trust Fund or some other source. And this is here in reference to ancillary costs, meaning repairs and fix-it things to be specified, right? And we need clarification because I don't think, and Martha, you may be the only one on the committee who knows this degree of detail, but it seems to me that, well, I don't know what they will do. I thought we were looking to the county housing trust fund as a backup to the other loose change that the county has, but is no longer available this year. Elsewhere in the minutes, one gets that impression. So we need to rectify these two uses, or Martha, if you say they would do either or both.
If you're talking about the small grant the county has available, that's up maximum of $10,000.
And that's no longer available. So
Well, it comes up on a calendar basis. They're done for this year. It'll probably come, I would imagine, though I haven't looked at the budget, but I'm gonna guess it'll be re-upped again and available probably in April.
okay.
But it's only $10,000. That's not gonna do anything for anybody. That's
All right.
really possibly seed money to, to write a grant to get real money in, or, the Housing Trust Fund, you mean the Community Housing Trust Fund, is that what you mean?
Yeah, but the reason that this is in the minutes in this place is that we are talking about someone writing an intelligent overview statement as to why we should partner with INHS. It's to fund some organization or author to do that. And if that small grant money is not available until April of next year, that's not soon enough. And so I think, as the language says here, we need to get a supplemental grant. We might need to get a supplemental grant. So here we're talking about that backup to get the proposal written to work with INHS, which came out of the discussion in our meeting with HCR.
Okay, I have a concern about, this is discussion of the minutes. This is not
Yeah.
discussion of what are we gonna do about this opportunity with the New York Home Grant.
You're right.
I think we should, I'm not
it's-
sure the minutes should be this detailed. This is like, we've never seen this before, so this is what you get. I mean, okay.
We can come back to this, but I want to just flag it. Let's keep going. lines 47 and 48 down below, right above the red. It says, let's read it. Decisions won't be made until to move money around until early 2026. That won't resolve the immediate issues at the two Pleasant View homes we've. This is actually a different topic. Two never really applied to Pleasant View. Craig and I went to inspect one, and there was another one, another problematic home in another mobile home park. So it's not quite accurate to refer to two. It's not a big deal. And so the easy solution is just to delete two and refer to any of the homes at Pleasant View or another mobile home park in the town of Dryden.
I would just say at the two homes that were discussed.
Fine, that would do it.
Yeah.
And not reference Pleasant View.
Mhm.
Or even, and
Thank
not reference visited, because we talked about two houses.
Right,
But at different locations, right?
correct, exactly right. So just delete Pleasant View. Thank you. That helps that. On page 3, line 11, the same problem arises. Strike the 2. This is really picky, but let's get it right. On line 11. Okay. Lauren, you made note of that?
No, we did discuss two homes.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with leaving two in there.
Um,
We talked about two specific homes.
yes, we did. We did.
So that's fine then.
I'm wrong. You guys are right. Pardon me. Let's go forward. It's also mentioned in line 16. Neither of the two homes, I guess that works as well for the reasons you just said. It's not referenced to Pleasant View. Okay, I'm done. No more changes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I
So
move that,
I'm not sure Chuck, if your corrections were things that were inaccurately recorded or just things that were wrong. And I asked this because I mentioned to you that I said something wrong in the meeting, and I do want that corrected, but it doesn't
Well-
get corrected in last week's minutes. It gets corrected today.
So
I just
I'll-
wanted,
So
I
I'll
just
say
wanted
that
to know.
the way I do things is my transcripts are not really transcripts, but my minutes are what is said during any given meeting.
Right.
And it's supposed to be a slice in time. So and the way that meetings occur, they're supposed to be monthly with no business conducted, anything in between.
Yeah.
Any new things should be reported at the next meeting. So
Right.
with Chuck's comments, they were just clarifications
They
on
were,
things
okay.
that he said. And with yours, it was conducted after the meeting. So that can be a separate topic at today's meeting in which I update, or it's a continuing story. So I can add any new information that is presented at today's meeting in next month's minutes.
Thank you, Lauren. I understand.
Mhm.
Okay. So then again, anyone wanna have other edits to the minute? None? Then just say yay or raise your hand for approval with the corrections. I'm sorry, with the corrections. Any nays? No. Any abstention? I don't see any either. Then they are approved. Thank you, Shaq and Lauren. Okay, so the rest is a list that Chuck sent. So I assume people who have something to say about this. Please let me know. Okay, so the next one is progress on future INSS collaboration. Yes, ma'am.
Not to be a pest, but now can I say, please correct the record to say that I said something wrong at the last meeting and put in the right thing.
Can you clarify, Gina? Clarify it again so it's real
Okay.
clear.
So I had said that the homes grant would not cover replacement of units built before 2006. It should have said they will not repair units built before 2006.
Okay.
Thank you. That's off my conscience now.
But in fact, sort of the whole idea of dealing with the older homes is that they do have to be replaced. Okay.
Okay. Next then is progress on future INHS collaboration with Chuck. This is with, I assume this is with the co-op extension?
No, it's actually not. It's with
ANHS, okay, okay.
And I thought this was a real milestone in our October meeting. We had had that terrific meeting with Stephanie and Marjorie. And what came out of that was strong encouragement from them, since we as a town and certainly as a committee can't engage these funds. We have to go through an entity who has had at least a year of experience, and they kept coming back to INHS as gold. And so, given that encouragement, I just am raising whether or not we've had any opportunities to follow up with De La Garza or anybody else at INHS to verbally explore this. And if we have, and they are open to it, then it seems to me we want to get our act together and start putting together the proposal that would involve, because this whole home program is about partnerships. That's what they're really encouraging. So they want, ideally, we would partner with INHS, and busy as they are, they would be open to the idea of working with one or several towns, hopefully Dryden. So have we had any follow-up? Martha, do you have any connection, more recent data?
No, I mean, I think I had, oh yeah, I did email, with Kate De La Garza. And since it's so far off, she sounded positive, but she kind of said, you know, let's talk after the new year almost, because, the next round doesn't come up until, was it July?
I
I
see.
think that's right.
So, as we know from last night, a world of things can happen between now and then. So she's certainly interested in partnering with us. You know, one thing I'm starting to feel a little bit uneasy about is how much effort, and this is, I guess, the trap for all people in mobile homes, manufactured homes, how much effort goes into helping one or two families. And are we, you know, is this really where we should spend our time, or should we be trying to find new ways to really build quantities of new housing units? You know, I just don't know. And I don't know if INHS is going to take that kind of more strategic approach. Anyway, the answer to your question is I did reach out to Kate. She expressed, you know, a lot of interest in working with us, and said, you know, it's too early to begin talking about the New York Home Grant. at this point, but she's interested. So I can put it in my calendar to call her in February or something.
Okay, I left our meeting, our October meeting, with a false impression that we would use this sort of dead time between now and the submission of those applications to do some creative imagining on the scope, the purpose. I mean, you just brought up a very relevant point about whether whatever the partnership entails content-wise, should it have a mobile home component, or should we look more broadly at half a dozen different affordable housing options, et cetera, et cetera? The partnership by no means needs to be limited to mobile homes, but we need to do some real thinking about that. And then my impression was that we were going to hire somebody. Now, maybe it's INHS if they bite on this, but I thought we were going to hire a consultant to consolidate our ideas for the New York State Home Project proposal, which we downloaded and discussed. It's a fairly ambitious thing. We have to put together a lot of materials, or someone does. It's probably not our committee. So this is a bit foggy, and I thought we needed the advanced time. And your sense is that Kate is saying, hold your horses.
Yeah, I mean, they're constantly preparing grants, and I mean, I could probably pull up the email in a minute, but I'll let me do that. But I guess I'm asking a bigger picture question. I mean, I feel an enormous amount of sympathy and wish we could do something more for folks in the most deteriorated homes. But there are a lot of us on this call, including 3 staff and 2 elected officials and a planning board member. And if we spend all our time to help 2 families, I'm not sure that's what I signed up for. I'm afraid, no.
Martha, that's your.
Let's give Gina. Gina, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, not to complicate things further, but and you all have longer experience in local government than I do, but isn't our relationship with INHS one of we regulate them, and is it appropriate for us to enter into a partnership when we're regulating them?
Well, I
Because-
think regulating in the sense of when they propose a specific project.
Right.
But we partner with them. For example, they're doing a CDBG grant for us right now, right? And they're doing one with a village and have done a previous one with a village also. So there's like the Freeze Road projects, that's their project. We're not partnering with them in any way for that. For CDBG, my understanding is, correct me if I'm wrong, Ray and Gina, the municipality applies for a CDBG grant. We're the applicant, even though like TOMA or INHS might actually write it. We're sort of the municipality is the applicant. And then if we get the grant, it's usually understood and written into the thing that they're going to actually do the work. They're going to find the families, they're going to vet the families and the houses, and they're going to actually get the repairs done.
Yeah.
So we're the sponsor, sort of with the applicant and the sponsor, but we're not regulating that kind of work. That's really different from somebody building new homes.
Yeah, and I just further explain on that. We're just administering a contract that we have with INHS. So we're not a regulatory agency in that relationship at all.
All right,
I think that with our CDBG grant, one of the attractive features of partnering with INHS for that grant was that they also have a bunch of other money streams coming into INHS that they could apply to homes that don't fit the CDBG model. So I might reach out to Delia Yarrow, who's the liaison with the CDBG grant, and I could ask her, with this homes program, is that one of the ones that you're kind of monitoring and seeing if some of our citizens would benefit by that program, and if that would be a match? And then what could we do, the town of Dryden, do to support INHS getting a grant to help those specific mobile homes?
All
So
right,
that
I
might be
found,
our best avenue to be efficient in this.
I found the email exchange with Kate. And just quickly, delighted to be partnering with the town of Dryden on a repair grant through CDBG, and we are handling 2 manufactured home replacement grants now. We are looking at the possibility of expanding our geographic reach for a 2025 ask. This is both a capital and staff-intensive grant to run. So we're working on a business plan for expanding this work. We'd be delighted to speak with you in the winter/spring after that's completed.
Mm.
So, yeah, I mean, it's on this funding stream is on their radar, clearly, and we let them know we're interested in it. So, I can write her back and say, I mean, I did write her back, but I without looking for that answer, but I can write her back and say, we've talked about it, keep us in the loop, and we'd like to be the beneficiary of your work, I guess.
Yeah. How can we help would be the message.
Yeah.
Thank you, Martha, for finding that. It seems like I was fixing on the home, New York State home component, and specifically on the mobile home element. Just to jump back, Martha, before you were worrying about an overemphasis on a very small number of mobile homes, I wouldn't agree with you on that. I think we're actually trying to learn about multiple programs that we might use to repair, restore, or replace mobile homes. And it's certainly not limited to the small number we talked about in our October meeting, but let's put that aside. I think what you said as a follow-up response, in addition to what you did send, would be helpful to let her know that we're interested at any point in partnering and assisting, and that part of it could be mobile homes. And I actually have something more to say about that in a minute when we get down to another agenda point that I learned at the workshop that INHS provided. So
Why don't we just transition to the next one, because they are somewhat related, right?
they are. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that folks want to raise or ask questions about? It seems like we've done justice to 2.
We can come back anyway, because it's sort of related. We're talking about sources of funding for the kind of project that we want to get involved anyway.
Yep. Okay. So on October 26th, INHS had a workshop in Trumansburg, and then they repeated it on November 2nd in Ithaca on purchasing, how to finance mobile home purchase or rehab. And attendance was low, unfortunately, and staff was thick. There were 4 of their staff people there. So including Delia Yarrow, and it was really information rich. It's a terrific PowerPoint presentation, and if you'd like to see it, I could forward it to all of you. A couple of highlights. One, I hadn't realized that Compass contained 151 units, and somewhere in the neighborhood of 13 of those have been replaced. And that takes us back to the earlier agenda item where those replacements are coming from New York State Home. So that is no doubt a big part of why the director and vice director of New York State Home are so big on INHS. They've seen them in action. They've had a lot of collaborative, and they're totally charmed by Compass, meaning the state. Okay. In addition to that, INHS noticed that New York State Home is completely about replacement and has nothing to say about brand new mobile homes. And INHS noticed that and went to HCR and said, hey, would you let us outright buy 4 new mobile homes and put them into Compass in addition to everything else we've done there? And they haven't seen the yes letter yet, but INHS believes they're going to get those 4 sometime in the coming year, and they're thrilled. And I'm bringing that up because I got the sense, and Martha and Gina, I'd be curious if you did as well, when we were speaking to Stephanie and Marjorie, they seemed very interested in fresh ideas. They were very flexible and wanted feedback from us and ideas, in addition to encouraging us to work with INHS. The point being that we ourselves, if it works in Compass, they might allow us to approach them. I think they're using that as a test case. And if we're in partnership with INHS, it's going to make the proposal from us all the more credible.
Chuck, there's a really big difference here. They own that park.
Yeah.
Are we working with any owner of a park who's interested in doing any of this?
Who's to say that if we said we have some need outside, we have a dilapidated mobile home outside of a park, the owner wants to demolish it and wants to, we could work outside of the box, as it were. But your point is good.
By the way, I just forwarded to the housing list the thread with Kate de la Garza, so you'll have that in your inboxes.
Thank you. So a couple of other points from that workshop. They went over lending options, state and federal, for mobile home repair, financing kinds of assistance for what would otherwise be called a mortgage if it wasn't a mobile home, but basically upfront expenses. And I won't, unless you request it, I could send it to Lauren, we could put it in the minutes, but basically they went over FHA, the VA, USDA, which only works for new homes. So up to this point, we haven't been interested in USDA for that reason. But if this new kind of incentive comes along and you can use the HCR money for new homes on the coattails of INHS, that becomes relevant. There's Fannie Mae and Freddie Mae. At the state level, there's SONIMA, the State of New York Mortgage Agency. And then I found this really interesting. They could not praise enough, INHS, people running the workshop, could not praise enough Tioga State Bank, which goes out of its way to accommodate low-income households directly, walk-ins, or nonprofits that are their advocates. And it was fun to learn the spread of both local agencies, state and federal, and private, in this case with a bank, that we might turn to. And one that surprised me was Habitat for the Humanity, which I thought had nothing to do. Well, it turns out in Colorado and in the state of Washington, they make loans to mobile homes for rehabilitation. So should we choose to include mobile homes in the mix of things that we work on under the title of affordable housing in the future? I think there are more outlets and conduits than CDBG and the standard ones we often go to. And they pointed out, I don't know if this is useful, that the Ithaca Board of Realtors is now listing mobile homes, even though they're not real estate. So that's rather interesting and a fluid situation. And then before I left, I had a long conversation about Delia, who, and this goes back to a question Martha just kind of raised. Are we overemphasizing a rather costly allocation of money were we to apply for it and get it on a small number of homes when perhaps we should be looking at a broader horizon? Delia actually addressed that very issue at the end of the workshop and said, of all of the affordable housing options at our disposal, far and away, the most cost-effective one is the mobile home unit, which is something we've talked about. I think without the data and the confidence that INHS can say that. And she pointed out a really interesting thing, that a lot of the grants that support energy improvements and new energy systems that we talk about in our housing committee that would go into mobile homes actually raise the assessed value of the park for the park owner. And when you think about it, that makes sense. And so she kind of challenged everyone present, saying, how could we approach mobile home park owners and draw them out and find out the kinds of things that would make what is a really good investment compared to the alternatives available. Mobile homes in and outside of parks make a lot of sense, but when they're in parks, you've got to think of more incentives and candy for the mobile home park owners to get them interested. Otherwise, they're more likely to continue to die off, frankly. I don't know if you guys saw the New York Times article in late October, a full-page article on the 27th on exactly this issue that we've discussed, mobile home park buyouts by private investors. So that was the long and the short of the workshop, and I think I've exhausted it. Do you have any questions?
Why would who pays the property tax on the home? If it's a home in a park, the resident owns the home. Don't they pay the property tax on the value of the home?
Unfortunately not. It actually is at the discretion of the county. And so it varies hugely across the country. But in our county, Jay has said outright that it's so much simpler for them to assess one entity rather than say 150 entities. They don't want to be bothered. So they just assess and assume that the owner will pass along whatever the taxes are to the owners to owners and renters in other ways, indirectly.
So presumably those residents end up paying it. So why
Right.
do we have to incentive the owner of the park if they're passing the taxes on?
I'm not sure I know the answer to that, but I know that John Kaufman, who's a lawyer and owns Pleasant View, wrote that rather testy article that came out a couple of years ago, saying that a lot of these seeming advantageous things under the rubric of affordable housing aren't advantageous for mobile home park owners. I'd have to reread that to get up to speed. Does anyone else remember the argument?
Yeah, before Craig, you have your hands. Up.
Oh, sorry, on mobile homes, it used to be if the wheels with the axles were on them and the tongue was on it, you didn't have to pay taxes on it, so it was a pretty simple challenge if anybody wanted to appeal it. I believe you could still do it today. That's why the town, in their zoning law, if you put one on a separate piece of property, it wants the tongue removed and the axles removed, so then it becomes real product of a house to tax. So, if it's mobile, you can't tax it. It's no different than a motor home. But so that who's ever getting taxed on them could go and appeal it and probably win their case. So they just haven't pushed it hard enough. Not a permanent structure.
There it is. Yes. Anyone about this? The Chuck, the new stay home waiting list is is related to the other, the other items, right?
Well,
Good question.
it's item 4. It came up at our last meeting, and I think we all thought that that was doable and a good idea based on comments that Craig and I made about visiting the 2, and that there probably were others that weren't yet on our radar all across the town. And I started thinking about that and really wondering if we have the just capacity to undertake that. I cavalierly said, yeah, I can do that. And then I started thinking about it, and yeah, I could, but it'd take a lot of time. And I'm saying that because you've all heard me talk about the tabling and pizza that we offered, Gina and I and Harrison from Cooperative Extension. And, I'm looking back on that, and we maybe talked to 10 people overall out of 40 some mobile homes. And I am shaking my head. It doesn't seem to me that Harrison has done follow-up, which he said he would do. Perhaps he's really busy with other things. And so it kind of falls back in our lap then to help fill out these applications if the people who approached us didn't do it themselves, fill out the application for the weatherization benefits. So I guess I'm pausing in my enthusiasm and just saying, I at least would recommend that we think through more carefully preparing a list. And Craig pointed out an interesting thing in our last minutes, that, if we did have a robust list, then what are we going to do? A lottery? How are we going to allocate the benefits and work through this? It just, I don't know. I want to pause on it, and I don't know. I'd appreciate input from any of you or people you may be able to draw into this.
What isn't Cooperative Extension being paid by New York State to do that kind of follow-up?
Reimbursed for reaching out through the southern tier, 7 counties. And I was so enthused by the new hire, Harrison, and he seemed really to be into this. And now I don't know if he's just flooded with competing obligations or what's going on. I guess I should check in with him and say, which I've done several times, but I need to keep following up. Now we're into winter, and I don't know if the weatherization can even be done in the winter season,
Maybe he didn't get any applications.
which is entirely possible. Yep. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt. I'll follow up.
Right. That's a good idea. Anyway, do you have any idea how we can help? Do you have some ideas about it?
Oh, Yeah, I'm sorry, I left you out. You were kindly part of that. Thank you,
No,
Leonardo.
no,
I don't. Other than going back and knocking on those doors, those 10 doors, and finding out if people applied without our knowing, or if they would like help at this point.
yeah. Martha?
Yeah, I mean, I think we certainly ought to start by seeing what Harrison did. If it's his job to do this, be nice to know if he's done anything. But I'm feeling maybe maybe it's the results last night. I'm feeling pretty jaded about a lot of things, and I feel like strangers who are retired college professors walking into a manufactured home park, knocking on a door and saying, "Hi, can we help you?" That doesn't feel right to me. I think, I mean, this last month or so, I knocked on a lot of doors in manufactured home parks, and I can name like only a couple that the houses looked like they didn't need some kind of repair. And I'm not the person to go in to that neighborhood. All due respect, Chuck, neither are you, I'm afraid. And I mean, I maybe the thing to do is, I mean, maybe we should talk to Pathstone, the group out of Rochester that has made some progress on resident-owned cooperatives. That they have some kind of way of actually reaching people and helping to facilitate park residents in organizing themselves. Maybe we should get Holly Hutchinson back in and see what, okay, at the end of her final contract, how did she end up doing? We talked to her, what, a year ago or so, and it was slow going, but she was hopeful. So maybe we can learn some lessons from her. But there are gaps here. There are gaps here, and for better or for worse, the messenger is as important as the message. And
Okay.
I don't think we're the messengers.
I think my impression that we probably should sort of get back to the question of what is our strategic work on housing? What is the things that we need to sort of broadly be involved in some format. I truly agree that a large part of our affordable housing is in mobile homes, whether in parks or not. A large number of them, those units, are in need of repair, in need of some kind of fix or even replacement. So I think most definitely they should be part of the conversation about how do what do we do in order to help families to get a better condition in housing condition, and then look at strategically about what the kind of thing we can do as a town. And then the second thing is to look into other options. What are the partnerships that we need to put together in order to do those kind of things? So I think the idea of working with the co-op extension was a good idea, but there is not much we can do unless if they don't have the capacity to follow up with the stuff that we decided to help with, and that is not and so it ended up being not a useful time on our part. to put it together when we could have thought about other things. But anyway, that's my take, about it. I don't. They may be too busy doing all sort of different things, but with other projects, and they have very little time to follow up on 10, 11, potential applications that that could have happened in this particular outreach event that we did. Anyway, Martha, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Chuck, if you'd follow up with Harrison, and, if we can get a report from Holly Hutchinson, might be some lessons learned there. And yeah, I'm not saying that we shouldn't do this with INHS, but it seems too early. And in fact, I think a big part of the job that they would be doing if we did apply for this grant, would be for them to build the waiting list, for them to build the prospect list as they do for CDBG. So.
Thank you, Martha, for your candor, now and earlier when you said we might not be, the right folks to be doing this. I can certainly hear that. It was interesting to me that this workshop, which they publicized and they had flyers all over the place, there were very, very low attendance. So what they see as professionals, deeply seasoned professionals, doesn't automatically work to draw people in. And they're well known. I mean, a lot of people, hi, Mike, would have come from Compass and some of the other mobile home parks in Ulysses, but that didn't happen.
Who did attend? You said there was very few people, but were they?
Oh, this was in reference to a workshop that I attended.
Yeah, the workshop, but you said who attended? You said there was very few people there. So what type of people were there at that meeting? Were they people that had mobile homes, or was it?
Yeah, they were both
places?
Mobile home residents from Compass. And one of them was a French, maybe a graduate student who is married to or partnered with a woman who lives in the mobile home park, and they want to buy a mobile home, and live in it. So very specific, and he's not a US citizen, so he was trying, how do I go to a bank and do all this stuff? And it was more of a question for the State Department, I thought. And the other person is extremely poor, just lost his wife, and his mobile home is leaking like a sieve. And it was clear that some of the staff people in the room had visited him and tried to shepherd him into one of their grants. And a big difference between INHS and any other group that we've talked about is that, as someone said earlier, they have all of these grant applications out around the clock throughout the year. So they constantly have money coming in over the transom, and they have a waiting list. They're very interested in getting specifics about people in mobile homes and outside of mobile homes that have repair needs. And then when one of these grants clicks in, they go down their waiting list and say, we're ready to serve you. So that is a wonderful quality. They have so many different, they're really diversified in that regard and can respond to a lot of different needs and have a ton of experience, whereas we don't.
Great. You have your hand up.
No.
Me? No.
Oh,
Yeah. No?
No.
Okay. So anyone else, wanna jump in? Martha?
Well, I realize it's not on the list, but the agenda, I mean, update, update on the rezoning. I mean, I think
Okay.
maybe rezoning is the only way we actually make progress on housing supply.
Ray?
Well, it's certainly the topic that the planning board is going to be discussing over the next few months. And the audit report is in. So the last planning board meeting was the discussion of that report. I haven't heard specific direction that the planning board is going to take, but that they're at that decision point of, what are the next steps that we want to endeavor. I think the rezoning map is probably at the very end of the process. So it's taking, easier amendments to the zoning law right now. But as they relate to any of the housing issues, they certainly kind of have an open invite out to the various committees to feed ideas into the process.
Okay.
And if you want, I could send out that audit report. It's about 30 pages or so to this group.
What were they majorly dealing with? Where you mentioned housing or zoning for it? Do they make any suggestions in their study?
Yeah, I think it's scattered throughout all different parts of the zoning law. So she digested the subdivision law, the zoning law, mobile home park ordinance, and then came out with a series of pointed out a series of issues that could be improved upon.
And the improvements would encourage more housing. Is what you're saying?
Yep.
I'd be
Because
very interested in seeing it, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
I'll send that out.
Yeah, that will be, it will be helpful. Ray, Craig?
Yeah, if you dig into the 2045 document, you'll see some areas that were recommended for higher density, mostly because they have possible access to water. We haven't discussed it on planning board, but certainly this committee could nudge them in that direction, and a lot of it's around the village. A lot of it's, there's one section up on Peruville Road where possibility of tapping into Lansing water up there. Because they actually have a tank up on Bone Plain Road. So, you say water, not a big deal, but it does. You can build on half-acre lots instead of a full acre. So it does have an impact. Going back to what Martha said, about big picture items. I mean, I think those are things we should push on the planning board as well. We've talked about sewers, expansion of the sewer past NYSEG. That's definitely going to have to be done by the town, because local developers not going to run a mile of sewer just to hook to buy the Leonardo property. We talked about sewer expansion past up to Hanshaw Village. And that's all sort of tied in what Cornell's going to do with their property. That's certainly something we could do. I'm trying to think what else, but yeah, the zone and some of the zoning changes, well, how that's implemented. So, where we might get some higher density where it's not really allowed now. So, so it'll be an interesting discussion for.
So, Craig, if I understand it, if we help them, the developers or whoever it is, get water and sewer built out to the area you talked about before, that's how we're going to get housing. Because
to get high density, you need water and sewer, or even on the shoulder of the village. If you just have water, you double the density of what's allowed there now. You're not going to get that 7 units per acre or a multi apartments, but anything's better than nothing. But I think is for this committee, we emphasize that. I mean, the planning board's got a lot of things to do, and to ask the boards for what their recommendations are will go a long way, I believe. One, because they don't have to do the heavy lifting. It's already sort of done for them. So I would encourage you to look at some of the areas of expansion. Another area was up North Road. That was another area of possible expansion we talked about. So, and that's in the 2045 plan. So,
Greg, when you say we might pitch some ideas, what time frame would you like to see that happen for it to be helpful? Soon? Before Christmas?
No, no, I don't think, nothing happens that quick. So, yeah, I mean, I would think if if we had something, if the planning, they have a lot on their plate right now. So I don't, this issue may not get tackled till spring. What do you think, Ray? I mean,
Yeah, but if they feel support from the housing committee, that's one way to, as you were alluding to earlier, that's one way of bringing it to the top of the priority list, is if there's work products that are easy to shuffle through.
Mhm.
So I would say, January might be a good target over the next couple of months to raise some housing issues that the planning board could put into that first year work scope.
because that is the primary focus of the rewrite, so, or one of the primary reasons. So
what did you say, Craig? What's
that housing is one of the primary issue, part of the rewrite of the zoning is housing, so.
so if you could send it 30 pages, we could, promise ourselves to read it and come talk about it at the December meeting.
You should have it in your inbox now. I just sent it.
Yes.
Oh,
That was
good.
fast.
Thank you.
So that will be an item for our next meeting then.
Thanks,
It,
Jim.
it seems to me that to get a developer come in and put a bunch of houses, they're gonna have to have the water and sewer. And I think that would be a strong way, if we want to get more in the town, is to work on getting it developed and giving it back to the planning board. The planning board picks it a priority, we pick the priority, and the town does, then it's going to give more emphasis to try to move that way.
And there's one more priority is the town board. So you really got to get their buy-in, because look what happened with the town lands. We had their buy-in and they said, we're doing our own thing. So you got to have, because they control the money. So,
The other problem is, of course, chicken and egg. Where do we propose putting water or sewer? We can't invest that kind of money on spec. How do you have a developer? I mean, we've got Ezra Village wanting to go. I mean, should we be writing a grant to help pay for infrastructure for Ezra Village? I don't know. I mean,
I have made a grant application for
right.
that.
Yes, you have. I know.
Because we need it.
Right. So, I
But
mean,
you're right, but what you're saying is maybe try to find a location where we get a developer that would somewhat be committed or too committed to the 40 acres if they got the water there or the sewer.
Well, the
Then
comprehensive
we could
plan
go
talks
back and
about,
go back. What?
I was gonna say, the comprehensive plan, the town comprehensive plan talks about nodal development. And a
Right.
lot of those nodes are places that have water and or sewer, and those are identified as places for growth.
Yeah.
So
we're
it's
one of
not
them.
starting from scratch.
right. That's the low hanging fruit. We should be really supporting that and trying to promote that.
the one of the kickers is the town is going to make anything around the village is going to be annexed into which adds enormous cost to the developer. So we got to think outside the village if you're looking for the town. So I mean, you've already had a couple developers say no, they didn't want to annex into the village. So there are the other thing with water grants, there are water grants for fire protection purposes too. So a lot of those grants are sort of ignored or forgotten about. So.
Mhm.
So I don't know, but yeah, it's a tough one. If we could isolate a handful of places that we thought would be good for expansion, and whether it's water or water and sewer to go there, we could, I would say approach the town board and say, this is what we want to do, get the buy-in from the town board. And then, try to go for it, I mean, then we could do big picture items,
Ray, I assume you go to most of the board meetings or not? Do you go to them?
The town board, yeah.
So do they have are they talking about growing the population, more buildings, more houses? are they just talking about factories? You know, what is their, what do you, how do you determine which way they're looking? Are they, it's not an important priority to get more housing, more growth, or?
No, I think it's definitely a top of mind issue for the town board all the time. So it's just a matter of, as Craig was pointing out, the infrastructure needs to really come first for appreciable densities.
Yeah.
Could I add one other variable in terms of infrastructure? Thanks to some of you on this committee, I've been hearing a lot about sidewalks for the last 2 years. And I was just at a family meeting in Wisconsin, and the family that I was staying with had moved from a very, very nice community without sidewalks to a community that had them. And they have 2 kids in high school. And they could not stop talking about the difference in the quality of life. And they mentioned sewer and water and energy kinds of connections. But sidewalks, they say, make such a difference for kids to be able to use bikes and connect, to go over to each other's homes. And without the sidewalks, I mean, maybe this was overstated, but they stay home and they look at screens and devices rather than getting outdoors. And I mean, it was really an impressive example of the way kids would bike to parks and to baseball games and what have you. So what comes with sidewalks, I think you have to have a certain degree of density, and some of the growth, I mean, the nodal areas that we are interested in are still pretty low density, but to the extent that sidewalks might help, say, in the NYSEG area to consolidate and bring together and make it safer for pedestrians and kids, we have some experience and recommendations might flow accordingly based on the Dryden example.
Trumansburg got a nice grant for a sidewalk too at the same time. And I think that is tying into the INH project that they built in Trumansburg.
You're right, right.
Varna also, right?
Yeah, great example. What a difference.
Mhm.
Okay, I guess we can continue this conversation when we read the report, and so we can get into more strategic sort of ideas and so forth. The final, if nobody has anything else to say about the conversation, the next item has to have something to do with about the townlands, and there are chat posts a number of questions. Can recreation field fits in the 6 to 7 sort of acres and so forth? So
maybe this all got resolved in our last meeting, but it seems to me that given the surprises that came up in October by Jason and the town board, I'm curious to know whether or not and Ray, I think you said at the beginning of the meeting that you had shared the agreement, and I haven't pulled it up yet, but is there a simple answer to the question that the road to the Cornelius potential development was a quid pro quo in the gift of 25 acres to the land, or did he give it unconditionally?
No, I'd say that's one legitimate read of it, is because there is a promise in the agreement to build a road at the request of Cornelius.
Mm-hmm. And that would be apart from the 6 or 7 acres that are not wetland compromised?
Yeah, there's no connection. There's no. Yeah, I think the right of way could be done where it's on the plat, But there is the alternative of putting it in another location, but the town regardless is on the hook for an access road to the Cornelius property,
Okay,
to the
I think there
remainder.
was
of the
there
Cornelius
was
property.
one kind of loophole in that, Ray, where it said that if there was another connecting road that went behind there, that he would give up use of that specially built road.
Yeah, if the town developed another alternative, he would relinquish the platted right away.
Right, I don't see you going through the wetlands to Neptune
Yeah.
on the original right away. I don't see that. No.
When I look at the drawing, the survey that's on the document that you sent, it sort of looks like he gave the town a big wetland. Am I wrong?
That, it's even written on there, wetland, it says, says swamp.
Yeah,
right?
it
Says
looks like
swamp.
yeah, I mean, I don't think the town got any kind of a deal on that at all.
Well, the surveyor puts the swamp symbol on the plat in a very general, non-biological way. The true wetland map is the one we got with the wetland delineation by B&L. So you'll see there's differences.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so you're saying that that's a kind of generic back of the envelope.
Yep. Don't hang your hat on it.
Okay.
The survey, yeah.
All right, so then the question remains, what, so where does the RFP stand right now, and how much land is usable, and what is the plan?
Gina, do you want to respond to that?
It's approximately 7.28 acres or something like that. And as far as I know, and I've not been part of the revised RFP for some reason, the plan is just to develop ball fields because apparently that's what was promised the donor. But then again, the donor didn't donate the land that the ball fields can be built on. So I don't know what that does to the agreement. So they've dropped the housing
Yeah.
portion of the project because the ball fields are priority.
Question, how many acres does a playfield need? I mean, do they need 2 acres for a soccer field, or what do they need? Because 7 acres, are you able to get 2 in there if you don't put anything else other than some parking? Or can you get 3 or what?
I understand we haven't received yet a report from the person or from the consultant that was hired. So the assumption is that we will get something, right, Ray and Gina, once they have a sort of an evaluation of what can be done. Is there a design involved in the RFP, right?
I have not seen
no
the
design
contract.
yet.
I don't, oh, go ahead.
I said there's no design yet. One
Yeah.
of the original proposers for a project did show a smaller project that was on about 7 acres that did include housing. It included an indoor facility and included a couple of ball fields. So I don't know a whole lot about how many acres are needed for ball fields and what kind of fields we need, but you could shoehorn a lot into 7 acres if you really wanted to, but I think that the housing has been officially dropped.
No, that was the housing component was dropped, and we put that clearly in the last minute. The town decided not to consider housing as one of the options and only focus on the play fields.
So has a consultant been hired? I'm confused.
Yes, it was higher, right?
Okay, and
And
what's the next step?
they hire.
Who
They're
was it,
gonna-
Leonardo? Sorry. Who
I
did they hire?
assume that will be a design that will be coming to us, I guess, right? That's my understanding.
Didn't the RP still ask for 2 designs?
Once, I think only one. That's my understanding too.
What's the timeline?
Can't remember, Ray, Gina, you remember the turnaround for this? I can't remember now.
Yeah, I've not been following the latest round of this, so I don't know when a contract is slated to be signed and when it would be executed.
Yep.
Could I draw attention to these other questions, and not to beat these to death, but if wetland mitigation is still in the conversation and on the table, then it might mean that we could the town could do some trading, mitigation in this vast wetland that it now is the obvious owner of, and either that would open up more space on the town land for other uses because of the mitigation logic, or failing that, are there alternative recreation areas? There was a little bit about that in the October minutes, but I remember that some people felt that a more centralized location for playing fields in the town, in the village or close to the village, might be worth considering. I don't know where that would be, but
Yeah.
go ahead.
That is not an appetite.
Wasn't a proposal like that torpedoed several years ago? People were very upset about
Yes,
it.
so there is not a discussion. We're still waiting for what the report from the consultant will come back to us and see what happened. There is no conversation whatsoever about other options for using the land, or whether we need to somewhat mitigate wetland use and so forth. That is nothing of that conversation yet.
So just to clarify something that was said, the proposal that the one consultant showed board or the committee was a plan for Woodstock. It was not anything they drew for Dryden. And it did have a housing component to it, and it was also on flat land. So, and it was about the same size, and so for that. And then as far as the wetlands, I don't think you'll see mitigation of wetlands because of the cost. It was brought to the committee's attention that if you try to relocate 1 acre of wetland, you have to replace it with 3 acres at a cost of about $100,000 per acre. So it doesn't really make sense to try to move a wetland if you don't have to. I understand you do sometimes, but
The gift seems like kind of a Trojan horse at this point.
Yeah.
well, I can see doing it to get the road up there for them, and that opens up a whole. There's that pocket up there of land that's not. So I hate to see that the town box themselves in with houses or ball fields up next to the town hall, where you could put that road in, and give him access to more housing up top. Because I don't know how he's going to get out of that. I don't think you can get out of that contract. So
Right.
Contract for the road?
yeah, I mean, it's in the deed. If you read it, it's in the deed. So
Can we get added to the list, a distribution list about any news or updates about this whole project? It seems to be a very quiet hush hush.
I was
It's been talked, in the last, we had a short conversation in the last, I think, meeting, town board meeting. But it was very short, and it was just simply moving along. I guess the hiring of the consultant, and with the focusing on just the playing fields.
Okay, I guess I'm asking if there's a time, you said, Ray, you didn't know if the contract's been signed and,
Yeah, I don't
That
have
is-
current contact
Yeah.
with, Marty Conger is who's leading the effort.
Hmm.
And Leslie Debo, the chair of the DRYC. And I don't have the latest round of, actions.
I don't have it either. So I assume we can ask for it.
well, you're on the client committee, aren't you?
In the
Leonardo?
what committee?
What?
Yeah, in what committee?
Isn't there a client committee?
That
Well,
was,
Craig is in the client committee, yes.
Who?
Craig.
I haven't heard anything from them since everything blew up. So,
That's what I'm
my
saying.
circumstance as well.
pardon me?
That's my position as well. I haven't heard anything since then.
Okay, that's not normal, the way of doing public business.
Oh, I know.
I assume there is no reason why not to ask where we are at. But that's and I will do that. I will follow up with that.
Well, you
Unless
should,
Craig, you wanna do it since you are part of the committee,
you should dissolve the committee if we're not gonna be there or be invited to that. I mean, the
All right.
Conservation Board and the whole thing, yeah, so.
Yeah, Leonard, I thought you were on it too.
No,
Just Craig?
yes, Craig.
Yeah, Leslie did reach out to see who, she told me that housing's off, and then she didn't tell me why, and then she said they're gonna rewrite the RFP. And then she asked me who I would pick. That's it. So, and I read through them and they were, for the cost, I went with the less expensive of the two proposals, just because there's no engineering, there's no, it is what it is, so.
I gotta say, we never could have gotten away with this kind of way of doing business at the county. Not ever.
Yep. But anyway, I will ask where we are at. That's a simple ask. And,
Right.
and I will, whatever I get, I'll distribute to the rest of the committee. Okay.
So maybe it's the case, Martha, that since the first committee didn't produce a clear choice for the proposal because it was scrapped, they just scrapped the whole committee and started over. That's what it kind of sounds like from what Craig was saying.
I don't think that's true, but, because otherwise she wouldn't have asked me if I had an opinion on the second proposal.
Yeah.
But I didn't see the RFP and they just said that, they just sent me the two proposals.
And one of them was already decided on. That's the thing that we know. And we don't know about whether the contract has been signed and so forth, or the turnaround for the report or anything like that. So I will ask for
Well, one of my suggestions was to use the Cornell Design Connect with them. I said, did you use, have you thought about it? And I plugged it from my experience with North Street, with them. So. And I didn't hear anything about that either, so.
Let me just say, I just gotta say, with the struggle we're having of finding locations for housing that's on infrastructure that is dense and appropriate for housing development, it's a real shame. This is a real shame. This is a failure by the town, and I'm really disheartened. I'm really.
Well, there was an agreement, or I guess there was some understanding that the primary concern for the important part of the board was the playing fields. And to the extent that we had more land than the actual number of acres that we have now, we could accommodate, other options, and that's what we ask, right? Other options. But once that came back with 6 to 7 acres of potential use of the land, then other options were dropped. Out.
What bothers me is you didn't even consult anybody about it. You
Yeah,
made the
that's-
decision, you know.
Can I ask a side question, which just is
Can I,
driving me crazy?
can I finish my thought real quick, Mike?
Sure.
Just-
Yeah.
Because I've been contacted by planning board members, conservation board members. And they were all in agreement that housing was the most suitable thing back there, and they all agreed, hey, share the spot, So it's not just this committee that's sort of like, what happened here, you've got a couple other committees that just think this was a shame and wrong. Planning board members, it's too bad. It really is too bad. It's a very narrow focus. Narrow, you're not thinking clearly about what you're doing, so.
What I was gonna ask, well, I still am, Cornelius, I think it was 20 acres that he was giving us to get the road. Did we get any acres that were usable out of the 20? I figured, hey, we got, I knew where some of the flood area was or swamp area was, but I figured it's over with those trees and everything else that we'd get, a bunch of acres, we could put INH up on the top of it, and did we get anything out of it? I mean, it'd be good for the village if there's a road, because then his other property can be developed, but not by him, his next generation, but.
Mike, in the middle of that, there's about 4 acres.
Oh, okay. So the
Yeah.
4 goes to the 7.
And remember, Brad Wills sent out a little drawing of what he thought he could do there, and he showed apartments in that 4 acres, so. It was right on the edge of his property up on that north side. And there's a couple acres here and there, but it'd be hard to get to. So.
I need to go to,
Yeah. So I'll find out what is going on with the Rafi and so forth for the next meeting. The next item has to do with you reach out to the real estate development Aconal. I think
yeah,
we have the opportunity to have somebody to come next meeting.
yes, I finally got him to say he'll come to December 4th or 3rd, whenever the first Wednesday.
Yeah.
At 3 o'clock. He can't do 2 o'clock, but at 3. So we can do other business and have him at 3 if that's okay.
I think
Okay.
it's
All right, that's Jeremy Thomas.
Jerry Thomas 3 p.m. All right. We have half an hour for
Yeah,
him. Okay.
that's fine. Yeah.
All right. He's in the agenda for next month.
Do we
Thank you
want
very much.
to
Yes, Charles.
start the
Yes.
meeting at 2 and do business until Jeremy joins us, or do we want to start at 3?
We can do business before and then have him come in at 3. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think it confuses people when we try to move the meeting around.
And
Yep.
we can probably go past 3:30 if we had to. I mean,
Yeah.
if he's talking, unless we lose our time, but I would think.
I would propose that we read some of that 2045 document. We can discuss like future plans for the planning board to look at.
And the zoning report.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
at least,
so I mean, that sounds like 2 to 3, that's plenty to
Yeah,
discuss.
it's plenty.
there'll probably be more questions than ideas, so.
Okay.
Right.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Have a
Bye-bye.
good.
Thank you. Thank you, Ray.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.